Our next storyteller is one of those people that you see around town. He is always smiling. He looks like one of those people you want to go and give a big hug to because he is so goddamn happy all the time. In fact, when I was talking to him earlier, he said that when people ask him how his day is, he's always like, great! And it's just boring because his days are always great. Please welcome Alex Posey.
It's okay to cry. It's an important lesson we all hopefully take to heart. Hopefully we all teach our children. It's an essential part of processing grief, working through our personal trauma. It's natural and it's healthy. I've always seemed to see the world through a very different lens than most people do. And if you see someone at a funeral and you see them bust out into fits of crying and despair, you'll go up and hug them tightly, tell them everything will be okay. Let them know that it's okay to cry. Just let it out. I seem to see the world through a very different lens than most people do, and I always have. And it's occurred to me, never in my life have I heard anyone say, it's okay not to cry. It's okay to laugh when you're supposed to be sad, like everyone else is. And the first time I ever noticed this was on July 1st, 1977, about 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a beautiful summer day, July day in Maine. I was 9 years old, and I just graduated the 3rd grade. My dad brought my sister and I together to tell us that the hospital had just called, and today was the day that Mom would die. Now, it was no big surprise, it wasn't a shock. We'd known for at least a few weeks that Mom wouldn't be coming back from the hospital. She'd been there battling lung cancer, it had spread to her brain, and that's where she was going to die today. I don't really know what happened right after that. I think I went about my normal morning, went down and made a bowl of cereal, whatever 9-year-old kid does in the summer. But I will never forget that moment a little later in the morning when I'm standing at the top of the stairs. I'm looking down the hallway towards my father and my sister. And he hangs up the phone and he says, the hospital just called, Mom just died. And Jules and I locked eyes and we giggled. And I started walking down the stairs and I was like, that's kind of weird. Didn't see that one coming. Like, they just told me Mom died and I laughed. And I don't really feel sad right now. Like, I thought through it logically, as I always do. I was like, she's dead. She's never coming back. I'm not. I'm 9. It's a beautiful day, and I want to go play. I want to go play tennis. So I was okay with it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask my dad if I can play tennis. Oh, then it hits me. This is not a good look. 10 minutes after my mother dies, I'm going to go up and ask my dad, hey, can I go play with my friends? I'm going to look like the most self-centered, just obnoxious, uncaring little punk you can imagine. And more than that, I was thinking about my dad. Like, his wife just died 10 minutes ago. He doesn't want to deal with me. He's got bigger things to do right now. I don't want to be any burden on him. But I really want to play tennis. So I'm going to do it. I just need to find the right timing. I don't know how long it takes to get used to being a widow and a single parent, but 10 minutes can't be enough. I'll give him a little while, and I'll ask him a little later if I can go play. So I go and I call my friend Steve, who lives next door, and I was like, hey, you want to play tennis later? And he said, sure, yeah, give me a call, okay. And then I started thinking about playing tennis, and I had the best idea. A racket. You see, 1977 was the tail end of the wooden era of tennis rackets in professional tennis. And the new hot tennis racket on the market was the Wilson T2000. Shiny metal racket, had a round head on it, not like an oval like normal old-fashioned wooden tennis rackets. And the best part is this racket had become popular because it was played by my idol and fellow left-handed player, one of the greatest players in the world, Jimmy Connors. Even better, the T2000 was the racket used by Ann Posey, my mother. And this racket was mine. Suddenly, a day that had started off, admittedly, pretty rough, was looking like Christmas in July, and I was psyched. I get a new tennis racket. Oh, and then it hits me for the second time in a very short period. This is a really bad look. We can add spoiled brat to the list of adjectives for Alex Posey today. A few minutes ago, I was worried about asking my dad, 10 minutes after my mother died, if I can go out and play. And now, before her body has settled to room temperature at the hospital, I'm going to ask him if I can have her stuff. Oh. But I am the most self-centered person I have ever known, and I want that tennis racket, and I want to go play tennis, so I need to make it okay. I need a plan. I'm pretty good at thinking on my feet, and I came up with a plan, a master plan. I'm going to throw my sister and my older brother Teo under the bus to get what I want. And in that moment, my little 9-year-old brain came up with a plan and a system that I'm pretty sure every used car salesman in history has learned on the first day on the job. Open high and close low. I'm going to throw some sticker shock at my dad, and he's never going to know what hit him to get my tennis racket. I just needed the perfect timing. It's still only been 10 or 15 minutes, and he needs to get used to being a widow, whatever. So, a few minutes later, sure enough, I see Dad heading out the front door, and he's going to the hospital. Go say goodbye to Mom, do whatever you do at the hospital when your wife just died. I want to go play tennis, and it's now or never. I'm going to strike while the iron's hot. I run out to the car just before he gets in. I can still picture standing there like it was yesterday. And I'm like, Dad, hey, I was just wondering, is it okay if I go to the park and play tennis with Steve? And he's like, of course it is. And he's probably happy that I'm okay. I'm not up in my room crying or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you can go play. And I'm like, and Dad, I was also wondering, since Teo gets her car, 1967 Ford Mustang, really nice car, I'm coming in high. And since Julia, I'm sure she'll get all her clothes, she's the only girl in the family. My mother was a famous British fashion model back in the 50s and a clothing designer. She had an amazing wardrobe that was a great haul for any teenage girl. Since Teo gets her car, and Jules, she gets all of her clothes, do you think I could have her tennis racket? Lows and low. Sure enough, worked like a charm. I knew it would. Yeah, Alex, you can go play tennis, you can have Mom's racket, have a good time, I'm gonna go to the hospital, I'll see you later. So I go into the house and pick up the phone, call my next door neighbor Steve, tell him, hey, come pick me up. And I go running over to the closet where all our tennis rackets hang, and I pull out my shiny new Wilson T2000, and I can't wait to go play tennis. We head over to the park. I don't really remember anything specific about the playing tennis, nothing real memorable there. But I will never forget when the match finished, my friend Steve throws his tennis racket on the ground, and he begins skipping around the perimeter of the tennis courts, singing at the top of his lungs in the most gleeful way you could ever imagine to all the children, all the parents hanging out in this public park. His mother kicked the bucket, his mother kicked the bucket, his mother kicked the bucket. I almost died, laughing my ass off. To this day, this is one of the funniest things I have ever heard. The sheer absurdity of a child skipping around the park, singing that his best friend's mother just died, when his best friend's mother just died. I just couldn't take it. This was comedy gold for me. Had all the elements I am looking for in good comedy. It was twisted as fuck. It was gonna make people really uncomfortable. As an added bonus, it was about me. And most of all, it was real and it was raw. I I just loved it. He sang his little thing for a couple of minutes. We decided before we headed home, we're gonna head over to the picnic table, sitting under the tree in the shade. There's a few other kids at the park sitting there with us. And there's a counselor. They always have these teenage kids they pay to sit and to babysit the kids in the park. It's a 14, 15-year-old girl. And I'm just sitting there, my little 9-year-old brain still kind of giggling about Stephen's song and stuff. And I am just presented in my brain with an amazing one-liner. If I can stick this thing, it could be devastating. This has all the elements that I'm looking for. It is seriously twisted. This is absolutely going to make people really uncomfortable. In particular, this poor teenage girl sitting to my left. It's all about me, and it is so real and so raw. I just need the right timing to get this thing right. And I need to set it up. I need to think of something really bad that's happened to me lately. I need to think of the second worst thing that's happened to me lately to make this joke stick. And I'm good at thinking on the fly, thinking on my feet, and I quickly land it. And I chuckle to myself. I'm just kind of reading the room, looking around the table. And when I find the right time, I just look at this poor teenage girl and as calmly deadpan as I can. I'm just like, man, it has been such a bad week. On Tuesday, my Little League team got knocked out in the playoffs. And this morning, my mother died. Mic drop. I don't know why I'm like this. I don't know where the hell this lens I see things through came from. But what I do know is there's no way that I'm the only one. And if I'm ever at a funeral and I see someone spontaneously burst into fits of laughter and shrieks of joy, I'm going to go up and give them the biggest, tightest hug, let them know that everything will be okay. Just let it out because it's natural. And most of all, I will make sure that they know it's okay not to cry.